Now, I haven't done any Christmas shopping yet. Have you?
No, only for myself, which is not good.
No, and if I go into Christmas shopping, I always think it's like snowing time, but I don't want that in the forecast just yet.
Right.
And it looks like you have your costume on for Halloween.
But you need yours.
I do need mine as well.
Spencer.
Here we go.
Come on.
Albuquerque is a nerd mecca.
Yeah.
We're home to Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Transformers was filmed here, an Avengers movie was filmed here, and it just turns out the fans here in town are taking this love all the way to the next level. Well, Tania, I know Bow and Arrow has an outdoor patio. Is this good patio sitting weather we're seeing this week? This photo was posted on the Lake Abiquiu Facebook page this weekend, and it looks like Marty the Moose is going to continue his journey headed south. After 6 years of investigations and trials, all surrounding the brutal death of 10-year-old Victoria Martins, a final sentencing hearing for the mother of Victoria is bringing this heartbreaking case to a close. Michelle Martins learned her fate this morning. Now, Brianna Wilson joins us now in the newsroom with the judge's decision. Brianna, this hearing was scheduled for more than an hour, but it took the judge less than 30 minutes to make that decision. Now, let's take a closer look. According to AAA, for regular unleaded gas, the current average price comes out to $4.03. In just a week, those prices have gone up by more than 40 cents. Let's look at last week, where the average price was around $3.53. Last night, the minority leaders in both the House and the Senate both made last-minute announcements that they are no longer looking for re-election. The House Minority Leader, Republican Ryan Lane, announced he is stepping down today. Lane says he wants to spend more time with his family, and in a statement said, "Our caucus has shown tremendous growth over the last year, and as much as I love leading this group of legislators, my family comes first." Then over on the Senate side, Minority Leader Gregory Baca also announced he's stepping down. He's been serving the Belen area since 2017.
Yeah, he had a big upset in flipping that seat from Democrat to Republican. Do we know why his reasons for stepping down?
A lot of similar reasons, wanting to spend more time with his wife and his kids, but he did bring up the redistricting that just happened the other year. He says because of this new redistricting, he would have to run against a fellow Republican. So here's what he has to say about that. Thanks for joining us for Eye on New Mexico. I'm Spencer Schott. Now, this week we saw the end of the 30-day legislative session, and there were some mixed feelings coming out of it. I'm joined this week by fellow political reporter Griffin Rushton. Griffin, glad you were able to make it back from Santa Fe finally and join us here on Eye on this week.
Look, it was a long 30 days, but I think everyone's glad that we are over. We're now moving forward, but there's still a lot to talk about.
Definitely. So much to talk about. You got to talk with the governor once the session ended. How is she feeling about everything?
Well, you know, the governor was proud.
Thanks for tuning in to Eye on New Mexico. I'm Spencer Schott, and as you can see, we're not in studio this week. We're actually at the University of New Mexico Hospital to talk about the new building that's going up right behind us. This week, we are joined by Mackenzie McNeil, who is the communication manager for campus development, and Vicky Ferrando, who is the main operating room manager. Thank you guys so much for joining with us today.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by. We're really excited to talk about this very exciting project.
So let's hop right into it. The first thing we wanted to talk about is what is going into this new building behind us.
Yeah, so there are a lot of amenities going inside that enormous building. So let me break down some of the main features.
And so it sounds like there's going to be a lot of technological advances going into this building. One being, it was announced the other week, stainless steel operating rooms. Now, what is the advantage of having stainless steel floor to ceiling in these operating rooms?
Yeah, there are a host of advantages, but I'll share with you the top three, and it just keeps us rolling much faster.
That's always a plus.
Yeah, definitely.
So Vicky, what are some other advantages in this new building or new tech that you are excited for to see personally? And earlier you mentioned that UNMH already has a lot of tech advantages that you like working with, but now you have the room to use them.
Yeah, that's, you know, one of the great things about being here, I see more people in the community, so that's what's on.
Yeah, thanks for breaking down everything that's going to go inside this building. And coming up after the break, we're going to find out when this building is going to open up and how it's going so far. We'll be right back. Thanks for joining us for Eye on New Mexico. I'm Spencer Schott. Now this week we are recapping the trial of Hannah Gutierrez Reed. Now she was the armorer on the set of Rust, meaning she was in charge of all the guns and ammo that was found on set. More than 2 years after the deadly shooting on the Rust movie set, Gutierrez Reed is facing charges of involuntary manslaughter and tampering with evidence in the death of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins. Now this trial is set to last through March 8th, but a judge said Friday it could go even longer. The trial started last Wednesday with jury selection, but attorneys on both sides were prepared to dismiss multiple prospective jurors, and they asked a lot of questions around what people knew about this case based on what they saw in the news. It was a long first day of jury selection in the criminal trial against Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the former armorer for the movie Rust. Cameras weren't allowed in the courtroom today for day one of the trial against Gutierrez Reed. In 2021, investigators say she was in charge of all guns and ammo on the set near Santa Fe when actor Alec Baldwin handled a gun during a rehearsal. Investigators say the gun fired, shooting a live bullet, hitting and killing cinematographer Halyna Hutchins and injuring director Joel Souza. On Wednesday, we sat down with our legal expert, Ahmad Assad, to talk about this important first step in the long-awaited legal process.
There's been a lot of high publicity in this case, so I think one of the areas that you'll see defense counsel and the prosecution is to try to deduce how much of that publicity made its way to those potential jurors today. But there's a lot of hot topic discussions that are going to take place in the course of this jury selection process.
The main concern? How much media coverage this case has gotten nationally. Attorneys want to make sure jurors can separate what they saw in the news versus what they will hear in court. The other concern Assad says attorneys may have is firearms.
People that may have experience and may own guns and may have particular strong thoughts with regards to who handles guns, who doesn't handle guns, the safety measures that go with handling a weapon. Those are going to be important for the parties in the court to understand, shaping an impartial jury to sit in on this case.
Assad says that is really the heart of this case, finding out who is responsible for allowing live ammunition on the set. Now, they were able to sit a jury in just one day, allowing for opening statements to happen first thing the next morning.
And you're going to hear from several witnesses who will testify that she often rushed through this critical step and sometimes she skipped this check altogether.
A lot of what you're going to hear is a chaotic scene created by production and forcing somebody to do these two different roles.
As you just heard, the state and the defense are painting very different pictures about what happened that day on the set of Rust. So let's start with the state. In their opening statements, they said they want to answer two questions during this trial. What are the events that happened on the set of Rust that led to the death of Halyna Hutchins, and how did live ammunition end up on that set? Their answer? They are pointing to Gutierrez Reed, saying she did not properly do her job as the armorer.
You will hear testimony that she routinely left guns and ammunition lying around the set unattended.
So as I said yesterday,
now the state argued Gutierrez Reed's action on set directly led to the death of Halyna Hutchins. Her defense attorney acknowledged what happened was a tragedy, but told the jury a tragedy doesn't mean a crime was committed. Her attorneys say the movie's producers created an unsafe working environment, saying they were fined by OSHA during the production and were requiring Gutierrez Reed to work as both the armorer and as a prop assistant.
She had insufficient time to do her armorer duties because she was also forced to do props. And management made a number of mistakes and did not create the proper atmosphere. Rust Production and the state want to scapegoat her.
Then that afternoon, last Thursday, we heard the first round of testimonies. The state's first two witnesses were sheriff deputies who arrived on the set after the shooting, and they walked the jury through body camera footage from that day. Now, Lieutenant Tim Benavides arrived more than 15 minutes after the first deputy. Now, throughout his testimony, the state pointed out how large and chaotic this crime scene was at the time. The state talked about how quickly deputies were able to find the weapon and secure it. But in cross-examination, the defense got Lieutenant Benavides to admit that mistakes were made during that preliminary investigation.
In this case, you had
a gentleman collect the prop cart for you? Should you have done that yourself?
Of course, I should have done that myself. But I kept an eye on him while he was getting it, while everything else was going on.
You agree with me that that was an investigative mistake on your part?
Yes, that was a mistake by me. Yes.
But the state argues that is all speculation, and there is no proof or evidence anything was tampered with.
Do you have any reason to believe that that gentleman in the hat tampered with any kind of evidence?
No, I do not.
Any reason to believe that he planted any evidence?
No, I do not.
When he reached over the crime scene tape and touched that dummy round on the cart, were you there?
I was looking straight at him.
As mentioned, Gutierrez-Reed is facing involuntary manslaughter and tampering with evidence charges. And the tampering charge is because she allegedly handed off a bag of cocaine to a coworker after deputies interviewed her following the shooting. Now, Friday, we got new evidence that Gutierrez-Reed was using drugs while working on set. Now, the state's first expert witness during this case was a cell phone data analyst. Now, this expert, Jason Hawks, was able to show the jury multiple text chains pulled from Gutierrez-Reed's phone. Now, the conversations shared in court include texts between her and her father, her and her lawyer, and an unknown local number. And the state pointed out those conversations with the 505 number show Gutierrez-Reed was using drugs while working on Rust.
LOL. I don't need that tonight anyways. Right on. I might go smoke in the jacuzzi soon, but maybe not. I'm so pooped. Headed down to get high out back. Time to eat now. How'd the Blaze cess go? I'm still smoking.
And during cross-examination, defense lawyers pointed out Hawks also pulled cell phone data from 2 other workers on the set of Rust, including Assistant Director David Hall. Now, they made the argument that it was suspicious how much information was deleted from Hall's phone right after the shooting.
Is there information about deleted information on this device?
There is.
Can you tell us about that, please?
So the report indicates that there's 1 deleted iMessage and 1 deleted WhatsApp. In addition to that, there are 5 deleted emails, and there are some deleted images, but without knowing what the images are, I don't know if they're things that he actually deleted or if they were cached images.
Now, Friday morning, all the witnesses were investigators either hired through the Santa Fe Sheriff's Department or hired by prosecution. But that afternoon, we heard from our first witness who actually worked on the set of Rust.
Were you a member of the crew of the movie Rust?
Yes, ma'am.
And what role did you have?
I was the unit production manager.
And as a production manager, Catherine Rowe Walters says her job was to make sure the day-to-day operations went smoothly. And she said she was the person that crew members would come to with any problems. Which is interesting, because during opening statements, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed's defense attorneys said she brought up many concerns about not being given enough time to do her duties as armorer. But during her testimony, Walters says Gutierrez-Reed never brought those concerns up to her. The defense did point out it was possible that Gutierrez-Reed talked about her concerns with one of the other managers and they just didn't let Walters know about it. But during testimony, we also learned Gutierrez-Reed reached out to Walters after the shooting to get some personal items from the prop truck where guns and ammunition were stored.
Can you just describe to us the few things that you did see her take out of the prop truck?
I remember a couple of gun belts, and I think I remember a couple of cardboard boxes, but nothing other than that.
Okay. And Ms. Gutierrez took these items from the prop truck prior to the police executing a search warrant on that truck. Is that correct?
Yes.
Ma'am, in addition to Ms. Gutierrez-Reed, you allowed other people to get their personal effects as well, didn't you?
From the set?
Yes.
Yes.
So after the incident, the law enforcement cleared the scene, and everybody thought it was clear, correct?
Correct.
And so you allowed multiple people to get their personal effects, is that correct?
Yes.
And after cross-examination, the state did point out Gutierrez-Reed was the only one to grab things from the prop truck, which was the main truck that the police searched. Now, coming up, we are hearing more from Gutierrez Reed's co-workers on the set of Rust. Stay tuned.